I'm on my own today. Roz is traveling. She is probably in Egypt, but she's about 9 hours ahead of us. So Roz, if you happen to turn on, miss you. See you next week. Oh, no? Is that better? Okay, David's going to turn it up. Okay. What I said was Roz is in Egypt, and if you'd like to wave to her, there's the camera back there. Thanks. She'll be home next week. I'm thrilled to welcome you, members, guests, our speaker, who is fabulous. It's going to be so much fun. I do have to ask that if anyone brought food or drinks into the sanctuary, that they immediately take them out. I know you saw all the signs. We had a problem last month, and we'd really like not to repeat that. So thank you for not eating and drinking in the sanctuary. We're moving on. Margaret Dudas showed up this morning, dropped off her poster, and told me her husband's in the hospital and she's not staying. So I'm here to tell you, Ann Hill is here. She'll take your reservations. And it's going to be a wonderful luncheon next month right after the meeting. And if you have any questions, Margaret will take your calls or Ann will help you today. Wendy, come on up.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Wendy Nash. You probably don't know me. I'm a new member. But I've taken over the Christmas pantry sale, which we'll be doing at the next meeting. And a lot of you have signed up, and I'm so grateful. If you want to bring something, I'll be out. And I wore a bright green sweater so you can find me. But basically, bake what you like or make what you like. Actually, things that go really well are nuts and marinades and like seasoning salts, that type of thing. And of course, sweets and cookies are very popular too. And if you could package them, basically the idea is for you to be able to buy something to take as hostess gifts to a friend's house over the holidays. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you at the next meeting, and thank you very much. And hopefully, if you haven't signed up, you might see me later. Thanks.
Thank you, Wendy. All right, Gaynor.
Hello, everyone. So it's that time of year where the poinsettias are coming into our visual. This one is only one I could find at this time of year, believe it or not, and it wasn't from Trader Joe's. And I'm very excited that we're all going to be involved this year. So Glee is a new member, and she's taken it on this project with me, and she will run it next year. Glee is a brand new member, and there's a big article in the Spindrift on her and her love of worms, which really grabbed my attention since I loathe them. And we've just gotten to know each other. You didn't know that? Anyway, Glee's father is buried at Arlington. And so she has that feeling like I do of having somebody who's been in a service or has been involved, how important the VA is to us all. And so I'm hoping, ladies, that when you come in December, you will bring a poinsettia with you. It can be a $5 poinsettia from Trader Joe's, it can be anything. And you'll drop it off with your car, and we'll be set up with tables downstairs, and you'll just drop it, go park your car, and come on up to the meeting, and make it very simple. And then when we have finished with everybody coming through, we will drive them off to the VA with lots of love. All right? Thank you so very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gaynor. All right, we've got a cast of 4. Who's going to come talk about schoolyard gardens? Okay, and Annie, I don't even have your name on there.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I'm privileged enough to be a part of the schoolyard garden program. And this year we have a lot of applications for grants and we don't have a lot of money. But these schoolyard gardens are changing these children's lives forever. And this is something they can learn now, and they can always do, and they can pass it down through generations. And it is really, really making a difference in these kids' lives. And we love being able to work in these schools. Most of them are Title I schools, which means the poorest of the poor. And one of the schools that we have has a 45% homeless population, and so, they pretty well live in tents across the street. And they're served food at school, and now we are teaching them how to grow food and harvest food. And I think the really important thing when you're thinking about making a donation to us is to remember that the opposite of poverty is education. And we're really trying hard to educate these people, and we would really appreciate everybody just opening up their purses and writing us a big check. So thank you very much, and happy holidays. Oh, I'm sorry. And we also sell the raffle tickets for this beautiful floral arrangement. It's one ticket for $10 or 3 for $20. And Annette is nice enough to donate this to us. And all of the money goes directly to our grant applications, which we're doing next Tuesday. So we have a lot more grants than money this year. Thank you.
Okay, so are you going to be selling tickets?
If anybody wants tickets, just raise your hand and I will find you.
And we'll try to do that drawing at the end of this business meeting. Okay. Penelope and Kathy.
Hello, I'm Kathy McKee. I'm also a new member, well, kind of a new member, a COVID member. So we were disappeared for a while. I have the pleasure of co-chairing the Commemorative Tree Committee with Penelope West, and it is a great pleasure. Please, I really enjoy working with her. We are working on various projects for dedicating trees to in honor of loved ones. So I know you all know how important trees are. If you've been to our table, there's a beautiful plaque there that was drawn by Wendy Watson-Diedrich, and she has some nice sayings in there that where would we be without trees? And I'd also like to say to you that one of my favorite childhood poems was about trees, and of course you all know it. It's almost trite. It's Trees by Joyce Kilmer. I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree whose lovely mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast, a tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray, a tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. And I had so much fun teaching my children and grandchildren this poem, and it means a lot to me. Trees themselves, of course, mean a lot to all of us. We would encourage you to consider donating towards a commemorative tree in honor of one of your loved ones, living or not, and we have a dedication ceremony. This coming one will be in May, and it will be with music and talks, and it's a very nice ceremony. So please, if you are interested in doing that, you can find forms at our table well, the tables are gone, right? In the
your
You can find tables, you can find forms in the directory, and then before the meeting, next time, at our table. Thank you.
Almost jumped off. I know, as if I'm going to fall off and wandering around. Hey.
Okay, let's see. Do we have the slides?
Oh, yeah.
Remind me how to do that.
Just push down.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again, Penelope, for that beautiful picture of Miramar. Karen Novak is off on a well-deserved getaway, so I'm on my own, which are big shoes to fill, but I'm learning the ropes. First of all, I want to thank all of our generous 2022 sponsors. We're nearing the arbitrary Wreaths Across America goal that they set for us of 100 wreaths, and it would be nice if we could bust over that number. I think we will. I've talked to a couple people this morning, and thank you for your pledges. But we still have room to add your name to our list, and we would love to do that. In response to, I'll leave that up so you can see. In response to questions that we got last month about volunteer opportunities, I finally got a call back from the local volunteer coordinator. And they're expecting 3,000 people on Saturday, Saturday, December 17th. But I know, Marilyn, if you can let Maureen know, she had thought about maybe bringing her grandchildren down. And this lovely gentleman said that if anybody had young children, he would let us come on Friday and do sort of a special thing for the kids where, it doesn't involve traffic control. And so what I hoped we could do was place all of the grave-specific wreaths that we've had ordered from the club and have our group of kids and any adults who want to join us. So contact me, please, if you're interested, and I'll reach out to everybody that I talked to last month about that. But anyway, oopsie. And in addition, I said, well, are there any other things that you need? And he said, well, yeah, there are some big things. And I said, well, it can't hurt to ask. You never know, what somebody might be able to do. So because they expect over 3,000 people up on the point, they have to get San Diego Police Department traffic control. So if you know of anybody who has a company and needs a tax write-off at the end of the year, I think he told me it's $415. So if you're interested, let me know. No pressure, but it can't hurt to share what their needs are. And the greatest thing about this is it's all volunteers. So every person that we talk to is just lovely and gracious and helpful. So I feel very happy about that. And if you are a nurse or you know someone who is a nurse and wants to spend some volunteer hours on the date, the first aid station is in need of a nurse or two. So those are the things that they need in addition to the volunteers. And I just want to thank you so much for your support. And if you have any questions, please give me a call or Karen a call when she's back. And thank you very much.
Okay, so before we move on to Bethany, we have three things. Penny Pines, thank you, Linda. She's going to pass around for the Penny Pines. We've done really well for Penny Pines the last couple of years, so we appreciate whatever you give to this. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So she's going to pass this around. Okay, and then our hospitality ladies, where's Susan Johnson? She's given me some numbers. So these are, let me see, I got to get my tickets out too. It's the orange tickets, correct? Orange, okay. First number, how many, are there 2 bags? Three gifts, and here are the numbers that, well, not mine. Okay, 093 is the first number. Right, the last three numbers on the ticket are 093. Sorry, I didn't say that well. Up. Anybody? Going once, going twice. 113. Oh, did we find someone with 093? No. Okay, how about 113? For crying out loud. Okay, 132. I feel like I'm calling bingo numbers. Oh, 132. Okay, want to come down and somebody in the back? Okay, she's coming to you. Okay, 098. Janet Evans, okay. All right. Thank you. We appreciate you doing that every week, every month. I'm glad it's not every week, right? Annie, are you ready to do the drawing for the flowers? This one doesn't have a name, but the number is 931155. And this is for the flowers. Is that yours? Debbie, there you go. Yay! Okay. Well, that's about all the fun we can have in this business meeting. It is indeed. She got the thing. Sure, you can leave it there. Okay, just don't forget it, because otherwise it'll go home with me. Okay. Jane, are you going to do the honors today? Okay.
'90s, she found a kindred spirit in Charles Little, whom she married. Together they farm 45 acres and supply both fresh and dried flowers to wholesalers nationwide. Bethany has been featured on Scott Shepherd's Flower podcast and Team Flower, as well as in the book, The 50-Mile Bouquet. In 2019, Bethany challenged herself and her sizable Instagram following with her Wreath a Day project, sharing her new ideas each day for an entire year. Amazing. This year, she's delving into heirloom varieties of everlasting dried flowers. You can join her Instagram live every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at Charles Little and Company. And I urge you to take a look at their website, charleslittleandcompany.com, where their flowers, specialty wreath kits, and home decor are available. And we have Bethany to thank today for her gifts that you received at the door. Thank you, Bethany, for that. And hopefully you saw the 3 tables in front, festooned with her gorgeous dried flowers, which are for sale after the program. And now please join me in welcoming Bethany Little.
Down button. Okay.
All right, thank you. Hi there. Thank you so much for coming and joining me today, and it is quite the honor to be invited to speak for you. I got just compensation for water bottle here, so I don't wheeze. I'm used to projecting my voice, but can you all hear me fine without me shouting? Okay, great. Let's see here. Let's get started. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Oops, I wonder where my big... Oh, well, my welcoming photo that showed part of our farm is missing. So I will start here. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Eugene, Oregon, and at the Willamette Valley. My mom is an avid gardener. Like Jean mentioned, I did beg for my own tiny plot so I could grow what I wanted, and I was the shy, awkward child who grew up just exploring, and where I grew up there was a lot of wild open space for me to do that. And I collected and I harvested and I dried and I crafted and I made little things like xylophones out of the bamboo that was in the bamboo patch. And you know, if I could craft by myself, I was doing that. I was growing flowers for drying on half an acre with a friend of mine, and I grew the wrong kind of larkspur, and my mom mentioned that there was this amazing article on the front page of our newspaper that the Register Guard that had a picture of a man and all this larkspur, and it was the right kind of larkspur for drying. I don't know if you remember those paper bows with the only concentrated on growing and selling dried flowers to dried flower wholesalers nationwide, which again at that time was a really big deal. As time has changed, fresh flowers became more important and dried flowers fell out of style, and a lot of dried flower wholesalers disappeared. Charles and I loved being flower farmers, and so our business has constantly evolved with the needs of the floral industry. So staying on our land that was leased to begin with, and then I think it was even 7 years ago, we were able to actually purchase the land that we'd been leasing for over 25 years. We are not generational farmers. We had to buy our farmland. We were able to purchase it, and it's just amazing to have that. And I don't know if you know any farmers that are not generational farmers. It's not an easy little step when you are growing your business and everything is cash and carry. So I'm very, very proud of us. We went from something really, really small, and I feel like we are known nationwide on a particular scale. We're not like there's some beautiful, huge flower growers here in California and nationwide, but it's nice to be medium-sized and recognized, and our flowers sought after. Just recently, in the last year, we managed to really get our website up and going, and we sell our dried flowers on our website and other products, things that we make from our farm. I will be adding more to that as, as time allows. But it's a passion. Flower farming is a lifestyle for us. It's a passion, and you'll see if you follow along with my Instagram or Facebook, our story. It's just, we grow things that we love, that we know that is really going to get other people excited and interested. So we'll start with, I wanted to check in with you because I think that a lot of people are using a form of dried plant all the time, and they're, it's something that we're not really connecting with. And I, just as who I am, I wanted to see and talk to you guys about where you use dried flowers and plants in your life and you might not be noticing it. And I just did a little brainstorm and thought about it, and I thought, your spice drawer. You've got pods and seeds and berries and dried herbs in there that are all these beautiful dried plants, your herbal teas, your linen clothing, your hemp fibers and seeds for food and for rope, safflower. Does anybody use safflower oil? I remember driving through Utah and seeing this huge field of orange safflower, and I was like, oh, they're growing this for the oil. And that is so cool, because I got to see something that we grow for a flower, a dried flower, a fresh flower, being used in its other way. And I love how plants can be used in different forms. So we have linum pods, but linum is where you get your linen. And so it's fun to think about using plants that you see and or use in one way in another way. I could keep going. Broom corn, making brooms out of broom corn. I learned how to make brooms this year. So the list goes on and on and on. But what I really love are dried flowers, and I love to craft with dried flowers. And here's my first slide to go with that. This is part of my Wreath a Day project that I did in 2019, and every day after work, I would go upstairs to the second floor with my dog, Remy, and she would sit there and stare at me while I made my wreath for the day, and it was an amazing practice. I learned so much about myself and about so many of the dried flowers, even more intimately because I forced myself to use them every single day, and how during different seasons they were easier to work with or harder to work with. So here's when I was doing, I think I did rainbows for a couple weeks. So here's part of my rainbow series. I made it on a wreath base that I grew and twisted up myself. This is grapevine wreath base. We do wreath bases out of 3 different things on our farm. Well, actually more than that. So we do it with grapevines, because I have some table grapes in my backyard. Porcelain vine, which we grow for the beautiful porcelain colored berries and green leaves for the fresh flower industry. And then we have hop vines. If we don't sell our hops, we use cornice or red twig dogwood or pink twig dogwood. There's yellow twig dogwood. They're really long sticks. They're pliable and bendable, so that you can create a wreath base. Like I said, I love crafting. I will probably make a little wreath out of grass anywhere. If I would right now, I'm a little nervous to keep my fingers busy. Most people would knit when they go places. I'll craft. There's a lot of flowers that are great for drying, a lot of plants that are great for drying. I'm going the wrong way again, sorry. Okay. Seems like I'm missing a couple slides, but We're going to start here with selecting seeds to grow, and this is my only slide with words here. Considerations: what to grow, how much space do you have for growing and drying, what kind of colors and shapes do you want, and what do you want in your yard? Do you want annuals or perennials in your yard, or what do you have access to? So for us, it starts with a passion of seeds and the plants, and this is my husband Charles. This is the man who started it all. We do a lot of seed saving because we will find things and have access to only small seed packets, so we'll grow them on and then set those to seed, let them bloom out, and collect the seeds so that we have a larger supply of them. That's Helichrysum cassianum. You can see the flower right there, and the collecting of the seed there, and there I am on the phone planting Helichrysum cassianum, but it is, our farm is 45 acres, but it is considered a small farm, so that's me taking an order. All the phone calls come to me. Right now everything's going to voicemail. And I really have a notepad with me all the time. Here is Rosemary, one of our lead, that's my fresh flower manager, and this is another employee, and she is sitting on the transplanter, and she's transplanting. Our transplanter is an old modified potato planter that opens up a furrow and before you, as you can see how she's sitting, and then she takes the plant and puts it in the ground, and packing wheels are right under her butt, and it pulls the dirt around it, around the plant. You can actually feel the dirt sort of pulling the plant out of your hand as you're planting. So each plant, we hand plant directly into the ground so that we know it's nice and snug. So many of the plants that we grow are so different shaped. So we have like Status that has a really nice flat head, or you might have Helichrysum that's this nice tall plant. So each one needs to be handled differently as it goes into the soil. So I can't just use like a plug transplanter. I'm not doing 5 acres of radishes. We're doing rows. You know, we might do an acre of straw flowers, but we might just do a row of Helichrysum cassianum. So each plant has its own needs, and so the hand planting is really, really important. For drying, again, choosing different kinds of plants to dry. Here's some ideas. Starting on the left, this is the pampas plumes. This is really popular right now for fresh and dried, but they dry beautifully. So it's a perennial clumping grass. Then there's amaranth, burgundy spike. This one's probably called Joker, I think. And it's an upright annual. Then there's a perennial here, which is the woolly Bethany, and then another annual of Celosia. So in our fields, we have lots of different kinds of plants. We have woody shrubs, big woody shrubs, small woody shrubs, perennial clumping grasses, herbaceous perennials, which go away in the wintertime because we do have a cold period, and then annuals. Here are a bunch of slides. I kind of got carried away when I was making this for you, of fresh versus dried. So I have fresh. This is a clumping grass. It's called, what is this one? Pennisetum little bunny tails. I think it's called bunny tails. So that's a pennisetum, that's fresh, and then that's dried. This is, oops, I didn't see it very well. These are 2 different grasses, sorry. On your left is cloud grass, and on your right is red bottlebrush. This is a shrub. It's a butterfly bush. This is a non-invasive variety of a the buddleia. This is Buddleia globosa. And so it's fresh on your left, and it's hanging to dry and almost dry on your right. And you can see it becomes this darker orange color. We hang all of our flowers upside down and air dry them in our barn. Oh, I forgot, because part of it was my beginning photos. We have a large 3-story barn, and it was built for drying flowers. The first floor is for processing and fresh flowers. Second floor is for drying, and the third floor is for drying. And it gets super hot up there. So this is in the spring. Buddleia globosa blooms in the spring, and so I'm definitely going to put it on the third floor, and it's going to dry the fastest there. It's going to dry hot and fast. It's going to keep its color and its shape. Here is some Celosia carmine plume, fresh on your right and dried on your left. Here's some Gomphrena, or globe amaranth. I think it's actually purple on your right and carmine on your left. But here's some straw flowers. It's fresh on your left and dried on your right. Straw flowers are helichrysum, which just got reclassified to xerochrysum this year, which I think will probably take another 20 years to catch on. Helichrysum, or straw flower, is one of the workhorses in the straw flower, or in the dried flower industry, and it's probably one that you have all seen, and if you've used dried flowers, have worked with. And we grow over an acre of it every year, and it's still not enough, but I just don't have enough ground to grow all of the straw flower that people want. There's one of my biggest customers is a float company in Pasadena, where they build those floats, and they have to use natural products for their color. So it would have been a little bit better example if I had a picture of the orange up here, but I sold them all my orange. So here's light pink, but you know, like if there's a stripe of an orange fish, they'll paint the stripe area of the orange fish with some glue, and then they'll take the petals and literally just chop them off with scissors, stick them in a Vitamix, grind them up, and then put that powder on as the stripe. So again, dried flowers are used in so many, and plants, dried plants are used in so many different ways around you that you just have to keep opening your eyes and seeing them, and then also seeing new ways to use them, which I think is really fun. Here's Rudbeckia. This is Chimney from the song. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay. I tell all my young employees, I'm like, Chimney, like the song, and they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, never mind. So you can see how the difference between how this fresh straw flower stays and looks the same as it's dried. So different flowers do different things, and they're still beautiful and interesting, even though they have changed a lot as they dried. So this Chimney, which has a tubular and bristle-like look, makes this beautiful, it curls up and is beautiful when it dries. So the more petals, the better. Here are some of our drying areas. Oh, there. This is a ceiling area, and if you watch any of our videos on Instagram, you will see that. That is right above our workstations. Can you hear me? Okay. And so these are all hung on wires. This area right here, I'll show you another picture. These are on racks. That's Remy. She's our princess, and she's giving Lindsay kisses. This is pulling down echinops in duress of like, gotta make space for more dried flowers. So all these echinops dried, and I had them in the greenhouse for just a moment of time before we got them into boxes, because we didn't want to have any light damage on them. But you can see the quantity of product that happens. When you're drying flowers, it's really important to catch them at the right time. And here's a couple slides of not catching them at the right time. So this is this is just like the photo and close-up. So this is a soteria. We call it foxtail grass, and you can see here there's brown on it. This got harvested a little late. We harvested it anyway, but what's really important, every plant has its harvest stage, and so the harvest stage for this is just right before it actually starts to set seed. So you'll see the head, and it'll be soft, and it'll be fluffy, and it will be full, but it won't be heavy, and it won't be turning brown. This will stay the same color as it dries, no matter what stage you cut it at. I just want to be careful not to cut it too late because it will shatter. Here's a good example of something that was, oops, wrong button, harvested too late. This straw flower, all straw flowers, especially rose straw flower, have a lot of energy. And that is bringing me to how do we dry flowers? All plants have a ton of energy in them. When you cut them and you preserve them as a fresh cut in a vase, you can see which flowers have the best staying power and the most energy in their stems. So when you take a plant and you hang it upside down, which we do all air drying in our barn on the second and third floor of our barn and in some Quonsets with black plastic over them. We want to catch the plant at its peak or just before its peak because I know that it's going to keep maturing if I don't get it dried hot enough fast enough. So that's why I always want to dry in the hottest area, in the darkest area, and the area with the most ventilation. If I don't have a ton of heat, I want to make sure I have a lot of ventilation and darkness, and we do run a dehumidifier almost every single day of the year unless it's too cold to run a dehumidifier on the second floor of our barn. So you can see there that yellow straw flower on the left had too much energy still in the stem, and it just continued to mature and just blew open like that. It's great if you want to save for seed. We do save seeds on some of our straw flowers, but that wasn't intentional. And then here's just some flower heads from when we were making bunches. Sometimes their heads pop off. So I wanted to show you beautiful mature heads like this. Actually, were probably kind of closed up, like this when I harvested it, and it will open up. So because that stem has so much energy. Some plants are not good for drying. Celosia, or not celosia, sedums, which sometimes you would think, wow, that's so beautiful. It has that nice hard head, and it's got a nice sturdy stem. It's a succulent, and what's really interesting about it is it just tries to keep growing. We have hung it up to dry. We try everything, and if you wonder if something dries, I encourage you to check it out because that's 99% of the fun of all of this is that you have questions and you can answer them and you can experiment. But yeah, celosia, not great. Asters, my mom's wedding flower, I wondered if it dried because I thought I'm going to make her a beautiful aster arrangement for Christmas. They don't dry. They fall apart. It's just sort of like learning. Sometimes things with leaves will stay on when you dry them, like eucalyptus, and sometimes things with leaves won't stay on when you dry them, like Daphne, or I'm just trying to think of like lilac plant or anything kind of like a deciduous evergreen. Here are some examples of products that are in their prime and they've been harvested for drying. Here on your left, you can see this beautiful Status and Gomphrena here in the truck. And then here's a row of this beautiful zinnia. They're all at their perfect prime for fresh, and that's when I want to harvest them for drying. It's really important to make a decision if you're going to harvest something for fresh or dried. Most of the time, if you want to enjoy something as a dried flower and you want to dry it, you should just dry it right away. You cannot predictably get a good dried flower out of a plant or a flower that you leave in a vase and let mature and then try to dry it. Most of the time they will fall apart. Sometimes it's perfect. You can stem dry in water like hydrangea. There are lots of exceptions. So there's always an exception to the rule. Some of my favorites, the celosia and the gomphrena, this is its perfect prime time for drying. This is a tarp of dried flowers getting ready to be hauled up to the second floor of the barn to dry. Another product that can be used that does have leaves is this boxwood here on the bottom right. That we don't dry it as a dried flower, but you can. I have used it in wreaths that will dry in place. So there are products that you can use to dry in place, just as long as you pull that wire nice and tight so it doesn't slip out as it dries. One of my favorites, physalis. This is Chinese lanterns or physalis, and in it is a fruit. And the fruit is not poisonous. You can eat it. We don't. I wouldn't recommend it. But these are all hanging to dry. You can see up here, it's on the wire. And I do sell this, but I always have to tell people, you have to promise to open the box right away because I'm shipping you a fresh fruit inside a dried pod. Here's some more. I put this picture here again so you could see again having our flowers on the wire. I have videos on my Instagram where I show you how to put the rubber band around the wire. I just didn't know that if I could do that here on this screen, so I didn't bring any videos. But we hang our product upside down on those wires, and when we're ready to take them off, we just pull straight down and pack them into our boxes, and then come back to them later when we get orders and rebunch the bunches to make sure they're properly sized. Peonies. I heard you guys can't grow peonies here. What a shame. I'm so sorry. Oh, man. I love peonies. There's so many different varieties, and if you can believe it, we live in an area where there's so many peony growers that I have a hard time selling my peonies. I should put them on my website in the spring, right? I'll do that because I can ship fresh product. Peonies are absolutely gorgeous, and they're one of the tricky ones, like roses, to get right for drying. This is Betty, and she is holding peonies that I'm about to dry. So we put them in water. Usually the crew harvests them and they're very tight. So like, see those there? They're really tight. They're little balls. They harvest them what's called the marshmallow stage. And I do try to sell them as a fresh cut, but I don't sell most of them fresh for two reasons. One, there's a glut in our area because there are so many people who do grow them. And two, there is, because we have such warm days and cold nights, we get, I just had this word in my head this morning because I wanted to tell you about it. Now I can't think of it. But what it does is it tries to flower and then it tries to make another flower within the flower. And so it makes this funny kind of puckered face that almost looks like you've dipped it in wax. It just looks super weird. And I can't sell that. It's not a premium quality product. And so what I do is I put it in water up on my second floor. It's still pretty cool at night, so second floor is the warmest place I have. I don't want to haul water to my third floor because I'm lazy. And then I open them up to the place I want, and most of them are Ben Franklin's, which are the dark carmine colored ones. So they've gone from this funny, they look like someone's taken a bite out of the top of a rose, is really how they look. They look so weird. And they finally open up, and it takes about 2.5, 3 weeks. And then I hang them up to dry. But these are all at the perfect stage for drying. You'll see those two varieties out there, Ben Franklin and Sarah Bernhardt, where it's at this puffy, open stage. Again, it's got energy in it. In the stem, when I hang that up to dry, it's going to open a little bit more as it's still drying. Here is a really good example of, you can see this better, our drying racks. So they're just bars that stick out, and we just slide our bunches onto them. But this is also what I do here. This is something you can do. This is my laundry room. That's where I put just keep all my distilled lavender oil and do all my dispensing right there. You can see my little bottles. But here's my clothes rack, and I have brought peony bunches into the house to dry because it's so cold. So I was like, I really, really want these to dry. I want them to dry nicely. So I brought them inside. And so you can just hang your flowers upside down on racks. This happens to be in a well-lit room. Everything was fine because so you don't have to have this big dark space with lots of fans going, and but just in your house, if your house is dry, not a steamy house, if you live on the coast, it might be very difficult to dry flowers because it's so humid. But I think that here you probably can dry some flowers in your garages, and I would definitely try it. What do you think? Yeah, it's dry enough here. Here are our Quonsets. You can see this one has black plastic on it. This one doesn't. This one does. We use our Quonsets. They're just simple structures of rebar and remesh. We use them in the spring for our seed propagation. We start all of our own plants, except for like Centrodrenium, because you need to make cuttings for that. You need to have a heated greenhouse, which we don't keep one. But we do all of our own seed sowing and seed propagation. And put our plants out as little in cell trays into our Quonsets, and then later we reuse those for drying product, and so they have wires along the edges on the inside here, and also I put some racks down the center, like you saw on the second floor of my barn. And here's some product that I am sun bleaching. So we try to use as little plastics as possible, and we don't use bleach to use for bleached flowers, but that tan bleached look is really popular right now. So I'm laying product out so that it can gather some humidity and sunlight to become tan colored. There's a slide in here somewhere. Here is some Casmanthium or woodland oats. And that is a clumping grass, perennial, herbaceous perennial. And here's some panicum, heavy metal, which is also really popular. These all are hanging upside down in our barn. You can see the wood there. And this one is in the plastic greenhouse. You can see it's hanging on the wires. And it's nice and hot and dry in Oregon. We don't get summer rains. Here is some yarrow, moonglow yarrow that's perfect and ready for harvesting. You can see the color's still really bright and high. The flower is as mature as it's going to get before it starts to turn. And here is the terracotta yarrow, and these are both herbaceous perennials. That's Connie. And back here is some nigella, and you can see these are tarps full of flowers that we have ready for drying. So the crew's harvested them. We're going to pick them up, haul them up to the second floor, third floor of the barn, or in one of the Quonsets, and we're going to hang them up to dry. They're all prime. They're all perfect. They're and we're just going to clear cut them. Herbaceous perennials are really fun to propagate. This yarrow terracotta was 4-inch pots when I first found it over 12 years ago, 15 years ago. I brought it home and I just pulled them apart, and then I had 20 pots. And then we planted them, and then we dug them up and we chopped them up, and now we have about 8 rows of this terracotta yarrow because it is so popular. Here is our crew harvesting lavender for drieds, and you can see they're really careful to get it nice and close so that they have a nice long stem, and they keep it nice and neat. Again, those will be brought upstairs to dry. That's Remy, and those beautiful lavender hanging to dry. It does smell, I can actually smell this. I have to tell you, I have a very, I can taste and smell very sensitively, but when I walk into my own barn, I'm just like, I barely smell it unless it's like they just harvested all the lavender, or they just harvested a whole bunch of yarrow, something that's really pungent. We also use our plants in many different ways. I try to expand our palette of offerings down at our farm stand and for our online store. So here on the left, I'm getting some lavender potpourri for just selling lavender potpourri, and also I distilled a bunch of lavender potpourri last winter for lavender oil because I ran out, and so I thought you can use dried lavender to make lavender oil. And then on the right here is a second harvest of I think this is Grosso, but I might be wrong, lavender here, and I'm harvesting this to take down to my friend who made oil for me in his still in the summertime of our different French and English lavenders. He ran different ones for me. And you can see my little harvesting tool there, my little scythe, and I was just making bunches out of it. Here's a bunch of echinops that's been harvested for drying, and you can see that it's harvested before the actual flower comes out, but it's nice and blue. And that's important because the actual flower that comes out is going to turn brown. It's going to turn brown, and the reason I have this photo here of me is this lavender is perfect stage for harvesting for drying, as it only has a few actual flowers that are coming out. When you're harvesting for lavender, you want to harvest it right when you see all the buds have swollen, but they haven't bloomed yet, and that is when you harvest it. If you harvest it after you've enjoyed it in your garden, it's going to fall apart. So again, every single flower does have its harvest stage for drying, which can be different than it is for fresh. So most of the time they're pretty similar, but you have to intentionally just turn that around and dry it right away and not enjoy it in its fresh stage. You get a choice most of the time. Sometimes you can enjoy a fresh flower because you're going to be harvesting it for a different reason, and I did forget to get a picture of the inula. That is one of my favorite crops because it's on I think it's on my Instagram. I don't even have it on my webpage. No, I think we do have it on our webpage. It makes a beautiful, beautiful flower, yellow flower in the spring, which pollinators absolutely love, and then it makes a seed crop on its heads that are like right upright, and they're all pretty much level, and then the goldfinches come in flocks and eat all the seeds, and then afterwards you're left with this beautiful little brown husk, a spray of little brown husks that kind of look like mushrooms. And I love using that brown accent in my flower arrangements and my wreaths, and love that I was part of that life cycle, and I got to watch that life cycle on our farm. Here is another part of the life cycle, and a really good friend of mine who is a neighbor. When I say neighbor, she lives 20 miles north of me, or 20 minutes north of me. So these are porcelain vine wreath bases that we make. And I do show a lot of tutorials of how I make these on my Instagram page. And my friend Heather of Petal Pink Flowers, who I would follow if you are an Instagram person, she is a delight. And she came to come make wreath bases with me so that she had something to use, a natural wreath base. And on her things that she sells nationally, she does tulip bulbs and dahlia tubers and all the things that I don't do. So she's fun to follow. Here, sorry, this is out of order. This is what I was talking about, sun bleaching. So I took a product that was kind of green and I put it in my greenhouse and I let the sun and the humidity hit it, so it makes this really buff color that people really, really like. So that's something that you can experiment with. I did it to a whole bunch of products last year and found that the most popular ones were doing it to echinops, the lepidium, the casmantium, woodland oats, and thalapsis, and cress. Everything else was sort of like, meh, now it just looks old. This too, right here, again, is a really good example of looking at plants at different stages in their lives for something that's useful. This is that beautiful, I think it's called Angel's Fishing Rod is the common name, so it makes that beautiful kind of grass-like base of a plant, and then it has those stems that come up, and they're just like these bowing in the wind with little flowers that hang off of them. They make these amazing seed pods, which I think are really, really interesting and also wiggly, and I like things that have a lot of movement in them even when they're dried. This is Lindsay, our dried flower manager, and this is where the magic happens on the second floor. She's packing a dried flower order, and above her are dried flowers, and over here are wires that are usually full of flowers. It looks like maybe this was last winter when we had cleaned up and everything's in boxes. That's what's above her head. We always put straw flowers up there because they're short and colorful, and it makes us happy to be in that workspace. And again, enjoying our life and doing beautiful things and touching beautiful things is what we want to do, and we want to share that with you. So we try to make our life as enjoyable as possible. Here are some more flowers hanging, and these are some flowers you wouldn't normally think about drying. Some you would, like poppy pods, which is a hardy annual, which means that, which means that you can start the seed in the fall, and the little plants will come up, and they'll hang out all winter, even under the snow where we are, and then they'll then grow in the spring. So there's a list of different hardy annuals that are great for doing that, statuses and cresses and poppies. But on your left here, you have some plants that you wouldn't necessarily think would be great as dried flowers, or interesting if you don't think they're great. There's the butterfly bush that I was talking about there, but this is the Aethiopica calla. It's the big calla lily. Do you guys have callas here? It's like the kind of like almost weeds, right? So you would want to harvest this before it starts to create pollen on its stamen. So you want to harvest it when it's like finely open and fresh and beautiful, and as open as it's going to get, but not laying open, before it starts to create any pollen, and you want to hang it to dry. Again, this is super fleshy, and it's going to continue to mature, and it will create pollen as it's drying, because it's going to continue, because it has so much energy in that stem, right? It's just like water. I once left a stem of calla lilies on our counter for 2 weeks, and I picked it up and just thought, I'm going to chop the end, stick it in water, and see what happens. It was fine, You're like, okay. Also, here is the viburnum snowball or snowball viburnum, which is the most common viburnum. I don't think you have it here because it needs that vernalization period, that cold period. But where we live, everybody has one in their yard. It's the snowball bush. And you want to catch it again, you're going to catch that at that stage right when it turns white or as it's green turning white, but no later than that because it will just shatter like a snowball if you catch it too late. And that one's interesting because the green leaves will stay on it as they're dried because I think it is so young that they are super attached. They haven't started to do that thing in the fall where a plant sort of turns its leaves off to drop them. So you want to, like, if you do want to catch something or you do want to experiment with things with leaves on them, deciduous things with leaves on them, catch them before the plant is thinking about turning itself off for fall. This is Connie again. I walk my dogs every day individually because they get their individual time with me every day, and she lets me put flowers on her head. She's such a good sport. Status is one of the biggest workhorses, along with strawflowers and gomphrena. They are a part of the family that are called everlastings, and they feel papery already when they are fresh. So I just thought those are cute pictures to show you some of the workhorses. Again, keep your life beautiful. This is something that I grew up this way, and I just love beautiful things. So like this is my workstation, and I pop all my broken heads into a beautiful bowl next to me. And I love crafting and creating, so I try to make time for that every single day. And these are things that I want to share with you because I think it's important to bring that beauty into your life, to take a moment to do something like that, whatever it happens to be. I want to share that. Part of our passion with you is we want beautiful things, so we farm flowers and paint and create and share and are part of our arts community as much as we possibly can be. That's the porcelain vine row right there. You can see, and there's videos of me just sort of pulling it out and making a wreath. Here's some products that I just made recently this year. I was just getting ready. I wanted to make some small wreaths for as sample for one of my workshops for my website. I wanted to create sort of a different kind of workshop, so we made one called Small Creations Workshop where people can come and make 3 small wreaths for hostess gifts or for gifts. Instead of shopping for the holidays, it's creating for the holidays and spending time with a friend. Here's a fun twist on, since you're here, you probably do succulent pumpkins, or maybe you see a lot of succulent pumpkins. I don't have enough space to grow pumpkins, and there's a farm up the road from us that always does like a big field, or I say up the road. Again, like half an hour away from me. They grow, because they have they have a ton of land. They're a generational farming family. And there's a field they never use for anything. Up front, they just plant it full of sunflowers, and then they're like, have a honesty box. And they're like, $1 a sunflower. I'm like, okay. So I go and get the seed heads and rub off the little flower, and then I cold glue some moss to it, and then I hot glue flowers to it to kind of create a different look. And for me, those always mold in 3 weeks, but sort of like a succulent pumpkin, it was a seasonal project and something that was just meant for the moment. And dried flowers, for us, if I have them in the house, they're going to last for a good long time. If you put them in the light, they're going to fade. If you put them in the humidity, they're going to fade. If you put them on a door, they're going to get banged up. But they're dried flowers, and they are a flower arrangement. And they are an amazing flower arrangement because they are like one of the most cost-effective ones where they last a long time. So, you know, if you spend $150 on, I'm not banging fresh flowers, I love them. But if you spend $150 on a fresh flower arrangement, it's going to last you a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe, depending on what's in it. Dried flowers are going to last you a few months to a year, depending on how you take care of it. Again, enjoying life. This is my mom, Dottie. She's helping me pick my pansies that I grow in crates every year for the farm stand because they're just a delight, and people see them and they say, oh, my grandma, you know, or they take them to their mom, or flowers are just so touching. And so these are, again, part of like things that don't necessarily make money, but things that we have, that we want to have at our farm because it's beautiful, it's important, it's sentimental, and you can press them. So that's another way to dry flowers. I could drone on and on and on about dried flowers and all the different ways you can do it. And then this is the man who started it all here at the farm. That's my husband, Charles. And this, we farm together. We live together. We come up with ideas together. It's really amazing to have a kindred spirit who loves art and beauty and nature and growing and has curiosity and wonder about the world. I feel so lucky. And I guess that's it. I thought there was more. There's just a couple more things I wanted to talk about. I lose track. We buy most of our seeds from American seed sources, but we do buy some from some English sources as well, English and German and a Japanese seed company. Most of them sell to large growers, but the ones that you could probably purchase from and do sell seeds for dried flowers are like Johnny's, Moles, Outside Pride, Osborne. Geo might be too big, and Ball or Glockner might be too big, but there's a lot of seed companies. And then, of course, there's people who are flower farmers like Florette, who is a flower farmer, and Erin started Florette, and she was a flower farmer and now is a seed company. So Florette Flowers, and then there's a lot of small flower farmers that I would encourage you to try to find via websites like slowflowers.com and the Association of Specialty Cut Flowers. I'm members of both of those, and you can find links to them on my webpage. And what did I miss? Oh, I wanted to just go back over the drying part real fast. We do hot, fast, dark, ventilated, upside down. When flowers are dry, for us, the humidity on them, if like you put it in a box, is about 60 or less for the humidity. One of the funny ways we know if something's dry, because we have a hard time knowing, is I'm going to pretend like this is a stem. I'm breaking it. So we'll break the stem, and there'll be like a peeled part of the stem, and we'll kind of like rub it on our dry lip. And it's interesting how your lip can tell when something's wet and when something's dry. You're really sensitive. And we rub it, touch our lip, and you can tell if something's dry. It's really interesting. But most of the time, I'll just take something, I'll just cut open like the head of something and check to see how dry that straw flower is, because I am about to pack it away into a box. I don't want to pack a box of mold. And then, again, thank you for inviting me so much. And I want to answer any questions, and I also want you to know that I'm going to be donating to some evergreen and dried flower wreaths to the garden project for raffling off. That is, I love it. That is near and dear to my heart. Education through plants, I think it's really, really important. A lot of people don't know where food comes from, and again, going back to the beginning of my talk, thinking about where things come from. I'm wearing a cotton shirt. That was a beautiful, beautiful plant that we use the bowl of cotton, and we also can use the plant as ornamentation. So some people don't know these things, and I think it's really, really important because it will help with people saving our planet. So. Yeah, so for wreaths and hair garlands or hair crowns, oh yes, how do I make flower wreaths, and how do I attach the flowers to the wreath bases, and how do I attach flowers to flower crowns? So there's a couple different ways I do it. Most of the time I use a paddle wire, and paddle wire. It's a wire that comes on a paddle. So it's like on a little spool, like a small spool. So it's handleable. And I tie the wire onto my wreath base, and then I use that to then attach my flowers to the wreath base, or evergreens. For hair garlands, I use a green florist tape that as you pull it, it stretches and gets kind of tacky. And I use different bases for that depending on how big and chunky or light and fluffy. I rarely can make a light and fluffy hair garland. Everything I make is chunky. But that is how you do like corsages and boutonnieres, if you've maybe seen that green tape on there. And then that's how I do my hair garlands. So wrappy wrap. Yes. Yes, the questions are, how many employees do we have for our 45 acres, and do we have to irrigate? And we have up to 20, sometimes 25, depending on how many part-time people throughout the year. And so that's throughout the year. And that's also have to think that's some of our employees who are work with us year-round, maybe part-time for a few months in the wintertime, and then full-time or more during the summer, and then like my driver who only drives 1 day a week. So, and then seasonal employees. We have some students from the University of Oregon often come. There's a work program where you can just, I don't know, they have their website where you can plug in, say like, I need employees, and then they can work, but they're working around their school schedule. So I have a bunch of little part-time employees that way. And then we irrigate. We overhead irrigate. Irrigation rights in Oregon come with your property. And our irrigation rights are super, super old. They're older than both of the dams that are above us. And we get our water directly from the river. The river, our property is a half a mile of river frontage. The river wraps all the way around our property. And we have a diversion point. I can't change that diversion point. And then we pump out of that and water different parts of our fields. And we know when it's time to water just based on like when things need it. Like, did we plant a whole bunch of little babies? We have to water that night right away. And then 2 days later. During the summer, if it's a bunch of woody shrubs, once a week might be fine in that lot. Yes. A lot. I wonder sometimes it's a lifestyle. I don't clock in. I know some of my flower farming friends do clock in. They don't do anything. They don't answer a phone. They run their business differently. Ours is just based on, we live in our house. Our office is in our house. I feel like it's not, sometimes I don't answer, I don't look at my phone when it rings, but not that often. You had a question. Oh, I'm glad. Yes. Yes, but if you grow it, you have to promise me that you're going to take care of that plant, because I would call it a thug, in the gardening world. It will take over. You need to keep that plant in check, and we do. We prune it back really hard every single year, and I'll use it for making wreath bases, and then my crew will come in and cut it all the way down to sort of like grapes, and then compost the extras. The vine is brown. It looks sort of like a mini grape, but don't eat it. And then the actual berries themselves, they call it porcelain vine because they're anywhere between green, white, that beautiful blue, and kind of purple colors of porcelain, blue and white porcelain. So that's why they call it that, I believe. Yeah. Do I ever use live flowers or fresh flowers on my wreaths and allow them to dry on my wreaths? No. I don't like going there. I like knowing what it's going to look like. I also like getting that wire nice and tight. I don't want them to slip. If I'm making something to sell or to gift, I want it to be, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist that way. I want it to be really, really beautiful. So I want to know what it's going to look like. Yeah. How long does it take for something to dry? It depends on what it is. The calla lilies, because they're 1 to 1.5 inches thick, big fleshy stem that you could almost drink out of, those take a long time, months. I probably hang it, in the spring and pull it down in July, where other products like the viburnum, because it's woody and it doesn't have a lot of fleshiness going on in there, even though it's a spring flower, it's going to take about 4 weeks or 5 weeks because it's a spring flower. But then in the middle of the summer, when you have a lot of heat, it's hot, they take about 3 weeks. So, but that's different for everybody. My friend Hannah at Full Belly Farm, they have their flowers up for about 5 days. So it's really hot where they are in California. Any other questions? So I hope you enjoyed it. I have in your little pouch is a water bottle sticker and one of my favorite English lavenders, which we actually don't know what the name of it is. We had a rogue plant, and then we propagated it, and propagated it, because we bought sell trays of perennial plants, and that's just keep your eyes open for things that you like and propagate them. Some information about us, and then here's a list. I also have a list of the flowers, of samples of things that I brought that are dried flowers that are for sale on our website. We also do evergreens on our website, and check it out if you're interested in our products. And then when people are done looking at what I brought, I will be selling off my samples for $10 a bunch. So, thank you.